Ed, from your perspective, if you could just give us an idea, just to start off the discussion, a definition of artificial intelligence or what it means from your standpoint.
Yeah, so thank you, Chris. So how many of us have heard about AI? I'd be surprised if anybody said no. Okay, all right. So what does AI mean to any of you? And I'm going to give a slight incident that happened to me. I was traveling to India. I was born and raised in India, American citizen, now live in the US for the last 20 plus years. So it was, I actually went back after a decade, so a lot of things in India were new. It was pretty surprising. Oh, you know, the hometown that I grew up on had completely changed, and it was not because of AI. But what was most interesting was that I went, my parents have a washer dryer that they haven't replaced in 20 years. So I was like, okay, you got to get rid of this. So I went to a store to buy it. Obviously, the person there doesn't know that I teach AI and run an AI company. And he tries to sell me a Samsung washing machine, says, hey, you got to buy this. This has AI in it. So it was very amusing to me when he said that, and it was, and that made me realize, what's the definition of AI? How has it changed? And definition of cloud, you don't think about the rain anymore. You think about, your data. So words define culture. Sometimes we invent words, and sometimes words shape our lives, and the meaning of those words change. And AI, historically, to people, meant just better predictive analytics, machine learning, deep learning. Now we've come with Gen AI. And a lot of people would think of anything robotic also as AI. So when you think of AI, think of that broad definition of AI, everything all the way from historical statistics and better math and predictive analytics down to Gen AI, which is agentic in nature, and we'll talk about that when we talk about jobs, all the way down to even robotic automation. So some people will use AI as an overall holistic term. So.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So the World Economic Forum recently released its biannual Future of Jobs report. And in that report, one of the sections, of course, was technology and digital related. Technology-related roles are the fastest growing jobs in percentage terms, including big data specialists, fintech engineers, AI and machine learning. Clerical and secretarial workers, including cashiers, ticket clerks, and admin assistants, and executive secretaries, are expected to see the biggest decline. Give us your perspective on AI affecting employment.
So it's a great question. Employment, we all obviously want employment. We also heard the term unemployment, and we talk about unemployment. And in my head, these are two actually different things, while they may seem like heads and tails, two sides of the same coin. So when I think about jobs, I think about employment and unemployment. And employment, very simplistically, is do you have the right job? Do you have a job, right? And what job do you have? And if you think about how AI is impacting employment, and you think of all the jobs in your company, all the roles that you have, and if you're an entrepreneur, you are in a job, or if you're working in a company, think of the individual and your business, both lenses. And really, AI is, some people will say, just automation. Just making things automated. So there is concern, oh, we're going to automate, my job's going to go away. That's one lens around employment. And then the other lens is AI is also self-service. So you don't need a person. Think of back in the day you had a teller, now you have an ATM. And automation happened first. Somebody first invented a tiny counting machine that sat next to the teller. Before, it was stuck with a screen, a TV screen, and put in front of the bank. So think of automation happens first, almost somebody improves the process, and then becomes self-service. But then the question is, what does it mean to your business? Think of two lenses. Automation, the whole idea, and self-service, the whole idea is to improve productivity. We had the GSE chairman yesterday talking about productivity and how productivity has been low. So obviously, automation will improve productivity, but also we had heard the finance minister earlier. I had the pleasure to listen to her, amazing woman. She talked about possibility. Dream big. She said, create the big companies. We want the big companies. I'm sure the GSC here wants big companies. So how many unicorns has Jamaica produced so far? We produced Bob Marley. Anybody Bob Marley fans here in the room?
Of course, always.
All right. Not many unicorns, but there's a fun fact for those of us who don't know. Jamaican British people created the company Marshmallow, which was a unicorn. So we have something to feel proud about. They were born here in Jamaica, these two founders. But then I would love to see the day where Jamaica can produce that. And I think that's the core question. It's beyond productivity, beyond automation, beyond self-service. What's the possibility that you can create in your economy?
So in an interview with Ralston Hyman, who's outside, we debated employment and unemployment. And the discussion we had, still connected to the Future of Jobs report, was around the sectors of jobs. I argued that Jamaican workers, for especially blue-collar workers, don't need to be worried for right now. The plumbers, the electricians, the folks who are using their hands, because until we get AI to that super intelligence level of AI, those jobs are safe. What are your thoughts around the sectors that we need to start thinking about, and how do we think about it?
I think a couple of things. Again, think productivity and possibilities. So you have existing sectors within the economy. You have food, you want self-sustenance, you want better agriculture within the economy. So obviously you can apply AI to all that. And now think of productivity versus possibility. Creating possibilities in an industry that you're not necessarily leading is harder. For example, if you wanted to think of how do you improve crop yields, and you're going to get into seed research, you have the University of West Indies. Maybe they're doing nuclear power plants. So its possibilities are possible, but then it's probably a longer road. The question is, within what time horizon, what value you want to create within the economy. And so if you want to create value within a shorter time frame, then you're thinking, yes, possibilities for the long term. So what are those sectors? We heard the energy was a concern yesterday. And so obviously, what can you do? Service sector seems like a no-brainer. Again, I'm talking possibility more than productivity. Productivity, I'm sure you have plenty of experts here in the room who'll tell you how to do it better and faster and cheaper. But think of possibility. And possibility really, we talked about BPO being one of the things. 60,000 people in Jamaica are employed in BPO, which is about 4.5% of total 1.3 million employed population in the country. How do we up that? How many people should or could potentially be, given the University of West Indies and all the vibrant ecosystem we have, be in the tech sector? How many? So we have 130 graduates that graduate out of the computer science program at the University of West Indies every year. How many of them actually have been pursuing entrepreneurism to create a company? Is there a program that naturally lends to that? And how many of those people are actually getting higher paid jobs? How many of them have actually become a software architect, for example, versus just taking a lower end software engineering job that's getting outsourced in the economy because they think it's not good enough for them to do it there in the first place.
Excellent, thank you very much. So as you were saying that a while ago, when you asked the question about Jamaica, producing the next unicorn, I took a glance to my National AI Task Force report, which our former minister responsible for digital transformation, who's now the Minister of Education, had constituted a group mixed with technology folks, government folks, people from academia. And one of the areas that we had looked on was some recommendations around economic growth. And I'll just quote here, short term, create the ecosystem through collaboration with universities to support the virtual and eventual physical establishment of AI hubs and tech parks in a bid to support AI-driven startups. Now, I know that you have a course specifically around AI. I don't know if you could give us a little idea whether what you teach in that course and your target audience, and how we could learn from that.
Sure, yeah. The course is available obviously online. We're launching an online-only version, so you don't have to travel all the way to New York. Otherwise, it's taught at the New York University. At NYU, we teach 2 times a year. Potentially, we're going to do more of that. We also do satellite events, where half-a-day events, where in collaboration with WeWork, which you might be familiar with, it's a co-working company like Regis. So we partner with them and host events. So you're welcome to attend one of those events. Those are opportunities to not only learn from the NYU faculty like myself, but also from broader ecosystem. So you bring in existing practitioners from the industry, experts, former general from the U.S. Army who has been running AI for the Army, for example, or the people from the CIA where obviously they're doing cutting edge AI, you can imagine. So we get experts like that in the room, and you can come and learn from whatever's happening there. And how do you apply to business?
So there was a professor here recently from I think it was Stanford, having a discussion with businesses, and he created a model with respect to how deep do you go into automation, so the human versus AI balance. So in terms of that, job of the AI versus job of the human, is there any framework, an idea, and a thought you have around that balance?
So it's an excellent question. What's the job of the human? And how many of us are actually working in a job here, or entrepreneurs, business owners? I think everybody, right? How many of us are doing that so that they can retire and have a lot of money? Be honest. Okay. All right. So the job of the human, at the end, we all want freedom. We want to be out of the job, actually. We want to get retired. We want to make the money so, we can just do whatever we actually want to do. So foundational question, what is the right job? Because even when you retire, how many people are in retirement? Some of them are. And they then go and pursue a second career, a third career. Like we heard about the Minister of Finance. She was in industry, and now she's pursuing a second career, so to speak, right, in another job. So what is the right job for you? Sometimes you don't even realize, and you go through your whole life only to realize, oh, what was I doing? Somebody told me to do this. So are you in the right job is the first question, right? And then if you understand that really well, then the rest follows from there. And then the job of AI is basically to do all the stupid stuff you don't want to do, or all the other stuff that you're doing because it's a job. How many of us get into a job and it's like, oh, God, I hate this job. Oh, God, I don't want to do this stuff. So in every job that there's stuff you hate, you just don't want to do, and there's stuff you really enjoy. So think of all the stuff that you hate, you don't want to do, just give it to AI. It's not going to take your job away. It's going to make you happier. It's going to make your life better. And then do all the stuff that you meaningfully want to pursue. And what those are varies from person to person.
So in answering that, one of the things that popped in my mind is ChatGPT is not AI alone. ChatGPT is a small component of what the vast world of AI is all about. And you briefly mentioned the BPO industry. And on various talk shows and various media articles, I've seen the worry and concern that, the chat bots are going to take over the jobs of BPO. In your understanding, knowing that BPO is important in Jamaica, how does AI play with BPO?
So
business process outsourcing industry, yes. Mm.
Yeah, so BPO, now think of, yes, BPO jobs will be impacted, are being impacted, and a lot of call center organizations are worried. So on the one side, think of historically, if you wanted to do outbound calls, think of simple example in BPO, and we're just going to take calls. So you can have BPO, for those of us who are not familiar, has a set of sectors within it. Calling and call center agents is a big chunk of that, both inbound, when you receive calls within a company's 800 number and you have to answer them, outbound, where you make sales calls to prospective clients or for resolving an issue, support and service, technical support, whenever you have a problem with your provider, you call them. Also, there's finance and bookkeeping and accounts and payroll, all those activities, and there's a lot more to it. But really, the most impacted jobs would be the jobs of any job title that ends with the word agent is more likely to be. And the important point here is that think of the role of the job of, earlier you asked the question, Chris, on the job of human versus the AI. So think of what are we offloading to AI? We are offloading agency to AI. Agency is, hey, can you do this for me? And the AI is going to do some action for you. And then there's a higher order of agency, which is decision making. Can AI take a decision for you? So asking AI to go do some research for you and tell you what shoes to buy versus then asking AI to make the decision, buy the shoe for you. Two different orders of agency. So the question is, what's that order of agency? And so if the roles that you have in the BPO, you should think from that perspective, what agency do you provide? Is it just research versus is it decision making? The higher order agency is less likely to go away because people will still want to take their own decisions.
So recently, one of Jamaica's largest BPO organizations, ITIL, and its founder was actually on the National AI Task Force. They kind of took matters in their own hand, and they decided that they're going to leverage AI to create, for want of a better word, super agents. So, in very similar to what you explained, they looked through the organization to try to figure out what are some of these repetitive tasks that I have to do over and over again that is massively important. I have to submit these reports at the end of every week to the various customers globally. And so they brought in a technology developer to build out AI support for all of that. That a lot of these reports that would normally happen in weeks now take minutes. And that agent is now able to respond way quicker to a customer's query and concern, and more importantly, to the bigger customer, giving the end of day reports, end of week reports instantly. With something like that happening for BPO, what are your thoughts around? You mentioned agriculture, but really and truly, Jamaica, we still have an agriculture industry. What would you suggest around AI for agriculture?
So AI for agriculture, again, think of the two areas you can apply, productivity and possibility. So the possibility we talked about, universities could do research programs, or if you had a very large agriculture company, and I'm saying billions of dollars in revenue, then that company could invest in R&D and create better genetic makeups of crops and seeds that provide better yield. But if you were to look at the productivity side of things, think of the loss that you have. Are you overspraying within your field and using more spray that you need to? Are you spraying the right plants for the right reasons? And that all goes back to the concept of precision. And the concept of precision is what really AI allows you to do. Think of like surgeries, right? How many of us have had to go through a surgery, and we know the success rates in surgeries, right? Things can go wrong. And think of robotic surgeries. How many of us had laser for their eyes, right? It's robotic in nature. And largely, any robotic surgery is more efficient, more accurate. The same goes in agriculture. Think of the precision. And think of precision in three categories, whether it's healthcare or it's agriculture or any industry. There's spatial precision. So you're spraying the pesticide at the right place on the right plants. Instead of spraying the entire field, you're spraying the 5 plants that need it. There is temporal precision. You're spraying it at the right time. You do it at the wrong time, then you overspraying, right? And then there's genetic precision. Are you spraying the right pesticide that's relevant for the plant? So if you think in those terms, you can probably optimize productivity, and possibility is a different question.
Thank you very much. So we've got the 2-minute wrap-up signal. So we have, again, we heard the last question from Andre with respect to growth in the economy and the continuous discussion around productivity and how do we take productivity to the next level. So manufacturing industries, what would you suggest to any of the manufacturers here around their use for AI?
So manufacturing industry, I would say there's both dimensions. There are certain jobs which are obviously automatable by robotics, but then that's a capital investment. There are certain other supervisory jobs which are automatable. For example, you may have one supervisor across 10 people versus 100 people. So really thinking of, you talked about the super agent. So really within manufacturing, the productivity is more about how can one agent manage more agents versus the possibilities obviously are more capital intensive in nature.
Fantastic. So before we go, in my introduction of you, your organization, you're the founder of Intellibus. Could you kind of give us a little bit of you're not here to sell, but tell us about Intellibus, and of course, tell us about that other project.
Yeah, I think, why should you care about Intellibus? Don't care about it, just because I'm here. But you want to think about the word Intellibus, where did it come from? And maybe that's something you want to care about. I coined that term just out of, sitting on the road outside my garage one day. The company wasn't formed at that time. I was teaching at NYU. And the idea that dawned on me, there's just too much software. And obviously, I wanted to build a business and do more in my life, but it seemed just terrible to make more software. There's too much software already. There's too much data already. Just didn't seem meaningful. So, but I wanted to build a platform because, obviously platforms are sustainable and they stay over a long period of time. So what dawned in my head is that, you want to make the business intelligent. So I thought of how do you create intelligent business platforms? So that's that's shortens to Intellibus. Some people think it's about creating an intelligent bus that drives around, but that's not what it is.
Got it. So you're heading to Switzerland right after this to present at the United Nations.
Yes.
Give us a sneak peek.
I am not at liberty to talk about that until I reach Geneva, but I would just say, in a few weeks, we'd be launching the initiative officially. We're announcing it next week in Geneva at the UN. It's called World Digital Governance. So it's about the whole world, all 8 billion people. It's about digital, which is data, plus AI, plus assets. Think virtual assets, cryptography, NFTs, tokens. And then about governance, which is making sure that you have the right custodians for the data, making sure that you have a right utility which protects your data, and making sure that you have a community that can oversee all this. But most importantly, it's about the sovereignty of the individual you. The bottom line is you should own your data. You don't own the digital you today. If you didn't own the physical you would be I wouldn't fill that word. You can imagine what that means. So the digital you is not owned by you. God forbid any of us here in the room was to pass away. Your digital you will be lost in ether space, and your digital will and legacy will forever remain in the cloud.
So we have a lot of business folks, of course, a lot of financial services industry. So before we step off the stage, could you just suggest one thing that these folks need to consider or do or take action right now around AI?
Yeah, I think the most important action to take is to educate yourself. I am the so-called AI expert. I every day discover new things, and there's just infinite amount that's out there. So obviously it's easy to get lost with people who talk to you about algorithms and models and agentic AI and frameworks and platforms, and every day there's an AI startup or maybe 10 AI startups in every city being formed. So it's easy to get lost in all that noise. I would say educate yourself. There are forums like what we're doing at NYU. We've been in conversations with University of West Indies. Diane, I don't know if you're here in the room. Please raise your hand. If you are, there you are. Talk to Diane. She's collaborating very closely with us, so she's going to be our point person here in Jamaica. So reach out to her. I would definitely encourage that.
Ed, thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please, thank you. 1 second. Andre, do we have questions, or all right, we can take one question. Anyone has a burning question? There are 2 mics here around artificial intelligence. Anyone? Bueller? Okay, there's one. Mike? It's on?
Okay, it's on? Okay.
Yes.
Keith Collister. Quick question. There is a view that AI will allow professionals in particular, one is that it will make professional expertise less meaningful because you can go and use AI. And another view is it seems to be attacking particular segments of the job market, such as journalism and so on. Where do you come down on? And there's another view that I think there's a Guyanese gentleman who may actually be at NYU who thinks that this is going to liberate us with Peter, the positive view, the Peter Drucker view of the world, where a new model is coming. So where do you, is it all three, or where do you do you have your own alternative view for on this?
I do have an idealistic view, which I can talk about after the UN meeting. But very short answer to your question is professionals are not going away. They're going to stay. Those jobs are going to stay. That's my sort of short-term view. Very long-term view, nobody knows. And the answer, very simply, maybe you can think about it like this. What's the job of the professional? If the job of the professional is to provide answers, then those jobs are going away. If the job of the professional is to ask the right questions, those jobs are staying here forever.
Good answer.
Good summary. Good point to end on.
Thank
you
you
very, very much. Excellent, Ed. Thanks,
Thank you.
Andre. Good.
Thank you all.